me today. I'm so honored to be here and be sharing our tool with you all. As Oziel mentioned, Descript in a nutshell, for those of you that are hearing about Descript for the first time, it's a collaborative all-in-one audio and video editor that works like a doc. So the good news is if you can edit a Word document, most likely you can use Descript. I am not a formally trained professional editor. My background's actually in e-learning, and so I used to hand transcribe online courses back in the day. And so where was this tool 10 years ago when this would have saved so much time? So I'm really excited to show you around the platform today. Later on, I'm going to be throwing in an offer that we'd love to extend to you all. It's 1 month free of our pro plan. And towards the end, I can answer any questions you might have about the different plans, but we'd love for everyone to just be able to get their feet wet, test out the platform, see if it's going to assist in your workflows and in your content creation process. So I'm just going to share my screen to get started. Please throw questions in the chat as you have them. And if anyone's like, hey, stop, like you have to dig in on this particular point, go deeper, just give me a shout out and we'll be happy to go deeper into the platform. So let's go ahead and dig right in. And actually before I start sharing my screen, I'm curious, how many of you are like a one-person show versus working with a team, just out of curiosity? Half, a little bit of both. Okay, awesome. So whether you're a one-person show, 2, 3, 4, Descript is a great tool, especially for narrative media. When it comes time to start collaborating with others, there's ways to get feedback directly in the app, use commenting, just like you can with Google Docs. So it's relatively easy to bring others into the show. So let's go ahead and dig in here. So let's gonna share screen 2. Is everyone seeing my screen okay? You're seeing Descript here? Awesome. So I threw in the chat just a link to the website so that you can kind of check out some of our other pages. It'll link to some use cases. You can access our blog and our help portal. Lots of helpful information here. But let's start here. Let's say you've just downloaded Descript for the first time and you're like, okay, trying to get my bearings. What is this all about? When you open up Descript for the first time, you're going to land here. This is what we call our Drive view. You're going to hear me use the Google Docs and Google Drive analogy a lot. So when you land here, this is basically a layout, a bird's eye view of all content that you're creating in Descript. So over here on the right, this is where all of your projects are going to exist, and you can set up a folder structure that's going to be most conducive to your workflow. And you can create nested folders. And so that's on the right side, this is where all of your content exists. Over here on the left, this is your left sidebar. This is where you have what's called workspaces, and it's broken into 2 different workspaces, your Drive workspace and your My workspace. Now, one of the reasons I asked if folks are collaborating with others is that let's say if I wanted to invite Oziel to my Drive and we're going to collaborate on an episode, I could invite Oziel here to this Drive here, and then we'd be able to collaborate on projects together. Now, if I'm a one-person show, doesn't really matter as much, but just wanted to mention that in case you start bringing others into the fold and you start collaborating on projects together. And then this second workspace is called My Workspace. This is a private workspace to you and you only. So if you have content that you want to keep private, My Workspace is the place to keep it. And then if you need to move things around, easy enough, just select Move To and designate it to the appropriate workspace. So just wanted you to have a lay of the land before we start editing a podcast and get into the nitty gritty. Once you're ready to actually start creating content, I'm going to hit this blue button here in Project. So the cool thing is that you can import existing audio and video material into Descript. You can also record audio and video directly in Descript. So quick survey here. What is everyone recording their show with? Is it Zoom? Is it Riverside? What are some of the tools that you're using? So Zoom, I'm seeing Ecamm, that's great. Zencaster, awesome. So good to know that there's obviously a wide variety of tools out there that enables you to record your show. So I'm going to use an example where I recorded a show on Riverside, but it would work the same in terms of importing material. So I'm going to go ahead and create a project, and I actually already have one that's already been generated. So I'm going to minimize this and open up my project here. So when you create a new project, you're going to see this view here. This is basically like a blank document. This is where you're going to be working on all of your content. Over here on the left, you're going to see the ability to add a new composition, folder, and sequence. So what are these? Think of a composition as an arrangement of your source material that you're bringing into Descript. So kind of like chapters or docs, if you will. Within this project, I can also create folders. So maybe I want to create a folder for selects or for social snippets. So you can organize those directly within a project as well. And then the last thing is that you can create a sequence. This is a multi-track view of files that you're bringing into Descript. So this is really helpful when and if you need to go in and remove crosstalk and be able to edit those files individually. So let's get started. I'm gonna title this J and JP, and I've got my files right here. So I'm gonna pull these in.
I'm in my room.
Hello, welcome. So drag those right on in. That's going to kick off our transcription process. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about transcription before we dig in too much. So with Descript, when you transcribe your material, if you have relatively optimal audio quality, you can get up to 95% accuracy with a transcription. And I'm going to click transcribe here. Now, if I had recorded something, let's say in German, and let's say that's what my MP4s here were, and I could just drag this in, transcribe it in German, but I'm going to do it in English for now, but we support 20 plus languages for transcription. So just wanted to mention that. I'm going to transcribe that. And that's going to kick off the transcription process. And so the cool thing is that about for every hour of audio that you input into Descript, it's going to transcribe in about 3 to 4 minutes. So it's pretty darn fast. So here I have my 2 files. I know that this person is J here, and this second track is JP. And then I want to make sure that I check this off, combine into a multi-track sequence so that I can go in and make edits to the files individually if need be. So I'm going to say done. And what I did is I already imported this material in advance of today's session so that we can dig right in. So here's the result of these 2 files transcribing. So now you've got a single script that you can now start editing the audio from both these 2 files. And so you can edit both from this script view and then also down here in the timeline view. Now, most folks will do like the initial 70 to 80% of their edits from this script. So let's just start taking a listen, and this would be my process for beginning to make edits to this specific episode.
Descript. Jay, welcome to the show.
Hey, JP. JP, can we ask you to repeat that? It looks like there was a countdown for the recording, so we missed the beginning of what you said.
Sure, absolutely. Sorry, and I had flicked off the recording screen itself. I was on your LinkedIn. So yeah, picking up here again. You're listening to AI in Action.
So we can hear that there was a little bit of a flub at the beginning of the interview. So what I'm going to do is this. I want to get rid of everything up until here where JP says you're listening to AI in Action. So what I can do is I can highlight that just like I would a Word doc and just hit the delete key. Now the interview starts here.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine.
So
Our
when you
guest
make
today is
changes
Jay.
to the text, you're making changes to the underlying audio and video if you have video as well. But today I'm going to primarily focus on audio. Now, the cool thing is that Descript is a non-destructive editor. So even when you make changes, we keep your stuff around. So for example, if I wanted to get a little bit of that back, I could just come down to the timeline, start dragging it back, and it starts to automatically reappear. But we want to keep that out. So I'm going to go ahead and delete again. And great. So I noticed right away from here, there's a couple things that I'm going to do to start cleaning up the transcript. Now, we want to make sure that we have a clean transcript, right? Because oftentimes if you're pairing a transcript to go along with the audio file of your show, we want to make sure that it's as close to 100% accuracy as possible. We want to make our material accessible and inclusive. So what I want to do is, first off, I noticed that Jay's last name is not spelled correctly. And so what I can do is I can highlight just the text that I want to fix. And I'm going to use the E key. That's going to allow me to go in and just make a correction to the transcript without affecting the audio. I can also go in and say, let's see. I think he says that's great to be here. So let's take a listen.
Thanks, JP.
Okay.
It's great to be here.
So
It's our pleasure.
go back. We don't need that period. And right. And if I wanted to, I can also go in and do this edit correct text mode. So that'll allow me to go through the entire thing as a doc and just make changes to the transcript without affecting the audio as well. So easy way to go in and start making corrections to your transcript. The next thing I usually, before I start bringing content into Descript, I like to set up what we call our transcription glossary. So we're using AI transcription. It's not 100% perfect. So there's some little things that you can do to get it closer to that 100% mark. So the first thing that I like to do is go to this D icon and we're going to go to the glossary. So this is a way to train the AI so that when it transcribes going forward, it's going to work from this sort of predefined glossary. So even if you just go through and start adding in names or the name of your show, it will train from this glossary. Never used to get my last name right, so I had to add that one. Would probably add Oziel's first name here because I'm not sure I would get that one right either. So even if you just go through, add the name of your show, add some names, start to plug that in, and it'll start to get smarter as you go. All right. The other thing that you notice is that I'm seeing some filler words here. I'm seeing some some likes, yeah, some rights. You can, if you click on this wrench icon here, a lot of options. The first thing I see is remove filler words. So this in of itself is one of the reasons I would use Descript to clean up my training material that I create all the time. It's pointing out all of those awkward filler words. So in this case, sometimes filler words are good. So maybe I want to just get rid of the us, ums, and repeated words. And I see a question. So if someone coughs or sneezes, will that appear in the transcript? So it won't appear in the transcript, but you'll see it in the timeline. You'll see like a little wave, a smaller waveform. And so you can go in and get rid of that. I'll show you how you can do that momentarily. Good question, Pedro. But yeah, for the purpose of just getting rid of filler words or word gaps, that's usually one of the first things I'll do. So let's get rid of those. And so now that I have some new results here. So now I can either choose to delete them or ignore them. I usually like to ignore them because it allows me to see my editorial decisions that I'm making as I go along. This is particularly useful too if you're collaborating with others, so they'd be able to see, the choices that you're making. For the purpose of today, I'm just going to delete them, but wanted you to know there's a couple different options there. So let's delete. I'm going to apply to all. And so now it's deleted 91 selections. So let's kind of take a look and see where some of those filler words were. I see that wherever we have this little gray line that indicates an edit point that we have in our script. And I'm going to go back to the beginning here. And let's Yeah, so I see that there was a couple edit points here. So let's take a quick listen to see how those edits sound.
I'm happy to. In some ways, I've kind of been doing the same thing for the past 21 years, but it has never felt like that. So I got my career
Okay, so
started
sounds
by
pretty good. I might want to go in and finesse this a little bit. So right before if I click here, I can add a little bit of extra timing and see how he repeated the word I. So I'm going to give this zoom in even a little bit more. So now I have a little bit of extra buffer. And if I even wanted to, I could add in a crossfade. When I get real fancy here. So let's see how that's sounding.
but it has never felt like that. So I got my career
So you
started
can kind of start
by
to go in and finesse the timing a little bit. The next thing I might do is find out where some of my word gaps are. Inevitably, there's always awkward pauses, right? So you can go in and find, let's say, anything longer than, let's see if there's anything longer than 2 seconds. Okay, so I might want to shorten those down to a full second here. So just little ways of being able to sort of start to tightening up the episode. Oh, Benjamin, I see you had a question about how to apply that crossfade. So you're not going to do that from the script. The script view is going to be where you're making all of these more editorial decisions. This is going to be done down in the timeline. So if you click here on this line here, you can expand it, shrink it, and then we're going to zoom in. So we see where when you have these edit points, you're going to see that little blue marker here. If you hover over it, right? You click and then drag either direction, and that'll allow you to apply that crossfade. Great question. Yeah, awesome. So now things are kind of starting to come together. It looks like there's a little awkward break here. I'm gonna fix that up. And so we notice that, get rid of that period. Welcome to the show. And if you want to change, there's a couple of keyboard shortcuts that I want to teach everyone. There's a ton of them, and you can, if you click down here on this question mark, you're gonna be able to access a lot of useful tips. One of them is our keyboard shortcuts. I definitely don't have them all memorized, but you can also access our help center and some tutorials in here. So just wanted to point that out. So a couple of things, the Q, the W, and the E key are three of your friends here. So the Q key is going to allow you to toggle between capitalization. The W is going to allow you to change punctuation. So this is going to let you swap between commas, periods, or get rid of them altogether. And then the E key, we saw that earlier. That's how you go in and make a correction to a specific word and fix the transcript. All right. So I think we've probably talked enough about transcription. Now, there's a couple things that you can do as well. So think about using Descript also for the purpose of repurposing content. So let's say there's a particular moment in this interview where Jay says he's talking about his history at Pro Tools. And so if I use this search here, I can go through and search a particular keyword. That was my spark. Okay.
that was my spark.
And so if this word showed up more than once, you'd be able to go through and audition each of those moments and hear them within the context of the interview. So let's say I want to take, when I see a comment. Oh, sorry, was there a question? Okay, I'll keep going, but yeah, feel free to jump in with any questions. So let's say I want to grab just this area. I can do a couple of things. One is if you click here on this clip to composition, and I'm going to say I want to clip to a new one, but you could also add it to an existing composition. I'm going to say clip, and now you'll notice that it's automatically created a new comp just of that particular selection. So now I could take this, I could turn it into an audiogram, I could sort of start to repurpose little social shareable clips as well. So that little pin option is one way of doing it. Another thing you can do is, let's say I want to go through and use the highlighting tool. This allows you to start going through and kind of creating selects. So I'm going to say I want to highlight that. purple. I might want to grab this, highlight that as well, and then use a different color here. And some folks will use this for color, like a color coding scheme. So maybe like purple is for social clips, blue is for repurposable content. So you come up with a system that's going to work best for you. Oh, great question, Don. So does it clip the accompanying video as well? So absolutely. So if you're working with video, it will pull both the audio and the video. So absolutely. And then I see another one from Jennifer. Can you select multiple selections in a composition to add it to a clip? Got it. Yeah. So actually, this is what I'm going to show you with highlights. Great question. So I've gone through and created, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Let's add one more for good form here. Okay. And so now if I come over to this particular composition that I'm working on, hover over the ellipses here, and we're going to say copy highlights. And in this case, I've only used purple highlights, but if I had other ones, I could grab those as well. So I'm going to say all highlights, and we're going to do add new. And this is going to be, we're going to call this selects. And now we're just going to paste. And now it's grabbed just those selections. So using the highlighting tool is a great way of grabbing multiple selects without having to go through one by one and create those individual select compositions. So great, yeah, great question. Excellent, awesome. So another thing, I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of those highlights now. Cool. So a couple other things. A lot of folks probably, you have music or accompanying images or B-roll that go along with your show. So there's a couple things that you can do right away to sort of incorporating other media into your show. So maybe I want to add a little bit of music at the beginning. So I'm going to find, oh, I don't need that. I need my demo material here. So I'm going to grab, just got this MP3 here. You can apply this in a couple different ways. I like to just drag it right onto the script, and then you can move it around later as you need. So I'm gonna drag this right on in. And so now we see this has been added, this new file, and I'm gonna zoom in a little bit, see, let me get a closer view what's happening here. And Descript's slowing down for me a little bit. So this will inevitably happen. Of course, it always happens during an important moment when you're demoing. So I'm actually gonna, there you go. You can always reload if anything ever starts acting wonky. I'm gonna zoom, I'm gonna go right up here. All right. It's definitely slowing down for me. So I'm gonna close this other window here. I'm going to reload, why not? Are you still hearing me okay? Oh, okay, all right, so it's just Descript that's slowing down for us, that's all right. So we're gonna refresh. Yeah, if anything ever kind of starts slowing down, or if you're like, that doesn't seem right, refreshing is always a good way to kind of get back to ground zero and see, you know, some of the edits you've recently made. So when this happens, this is a good teaching moment. You can go into, click on this D icon and go to the view version history. So if you ever need, if you're like, I need to go back 5 minutes, I can go back to a previous version and restore it. So you have full versioning with Descript. This is particularly important too if you're collaborating on projects together. You can always go back and restore previous versions. All right, so where were we? We had just added some music. And so what I want to do is, let's add a little bit of time before they start talking here. You can click on this word bar here, and that'll just extend the time a little bit. I'm going to drag this to the front. And it looks like the music here, it's coming in pretty hot. So I'm going to click here on this pin track, and I'm going to bring the volume down a little bit. All right, let's drag that down a little bit more, a little more. And okay, cool. Let's take a listen. All right, we'll give it a second here to catch up. So when this happens, just give it a moment to kind of catch up. One thing that you can do is that if you have a bunch of projects that you're working on, you can always offload to offline storage. So as you work in Descript, everything is saving to the cloud. You never have to worry about pressing the save button here. And you can see here a little bit of pending activity happening. So I'm going to give this a moment. I'm going to go ahead and refresh one more time. Give it a second here to catch up. Of course, it always does this when I'm working. But basically, what I was going to show you here is that now that I've added some music, all right, so we're going to reload. Once you've added that music, then you can kind of start to move the track around based on where you want it to come in. So let's say if I wanted to move it to the very end, I could apply it there. And okay, so looks like it didn't save everything, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and move that over. Bring the gain down again. All right, how about now? It just doesn't want to do it for me. Okay, I'm going to back out just a second here. We'll discard those changes. It's pending activity here. All right. Let's pop back in. While I'm waiting for Descript to behave, please feel free to throw in some questions in the chat. And yeah, just we can kind of jump into Q&A as folks have general questions about the platform, and then hopefully I'll be able to share with you, show you as I share information back.
I can say that this is so refreshing that this isn't just happening to me. So I so appreciate this. You don't even know, because I do the same thing. I'll like, okay, let me restart it. Maybe I need to restart my computer. I mean, it's amazing, but every once in a while I wonder if it's user error or tech error. So even though this is probably not ideal for you, I so appreciate this moment.
You got it. No, of course. I mean, it happens. I do have to update to Monterey, so I'm wondering if that's why I'm getting a little bit of trouble. But yeah, this, we're all human, right? But and obviously Descript is not, but it happens. Okay, great. So I have a question for Ben, and thank you for that, Jennifer. I appreciate it. So the question was, is it possible to have transcribed audio on multiple tracks such that you can adjust levels between speakers? Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question. So kind of like I was showing you earlier, I'm gonna back out of this again, and I'm gonna give the good old quit. Let's give that a shot, and then we're gonna go ahead and reopen. So absolutely, to your question, Benjamin, you can go in and adjust the levels for each individual track. You can do that in the sequence view, which will go ahead and open up if I can get this project to behave for me here. So I'm gonna go ahead and open it now. Okay, it's behaving so far. So what I'm going to do is, if you right click on the script, this allows me to go into the sequence. So I can go in and adjust the levels just for JP or just for J. So if I select JP's track here, I can bring the volume down just a little bit. So, okay, I'm going to see that slight adjustment here. And I can also go in and, let's say if the levels are just coming in hot at a specific range, I can go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. And let's say I want to make a cut here. I can switch to the blade tool and here. And so now if I select this particular clip, I can bring the volume down just in that selection. So I can easily make changes to specific clips. If I snap back to the script view, now I can go ahead and start making edits again to the script. I'm gonna go ahead and see how my music's doing over here. See if it caught up with us. Okay, so once again, third time's a charm. Let's drag that over. Okay, let's make it a couple seconds here. I'm gonna bring the levels down on our music. Awesome. Come on. There we go.
You're listening to AI in Action.
All right.
I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Jay LaBeouf. Jay.
Amazing. Okay, so now that I've added my music, maybe I don't want it persisting through the entire episode. So what I can do is I can just drag this track. I'm going to clip it. I'm going to have it come about here. Then I also might want to add sort of like a fade in and a fade out on the music. So if I hover over that track, fade in, and if you hover the right side, you'll see that little diamond shape. Drag that in, and that'll start fading out.
Jay is the head of business development at Descript. Jay, welcome to the show.
Thanks, JP.
All right, cool. It's working. I'm so happy. Awesome. So now, let's say I want to take a little excerpt and turn it into an audiogram. Let's say, I want to go back to that spot where Jay says that word spark. So I'm going to go ahead and search for that word here.
That was my spark.
Okay, so I want to grab that. I'm going to clip it. And I'm going to go now to this selection here. So maybe I want to sort of jazz this up a little bit. I want to turn this into a video element. So if I select all, here's the fourth keyboard short I'm going to teach you. And this is probably one of the most important. If you're on a Mac, it's Command K. And if you're on Windows, Control K. This is our conductor. This is basically how you boss Descript around. So if you want to jump to a specific time in the interview, if you want to add captions, if you want to add a marker, markers are a great way of creating sort of sections or chapters of your shows. In this case, I want captions. So I'm going to type captions. All right. So now I've got my captions here. Very cool. I can move these around. I change the size. So now we see this added track here. And if I hover over this little pin track here, now I can change the font. We have custom fonts in here. Change the style, maybe change the fill color. I can add in word level animation, which will highlight the active and future word color. So let's see how we're doing.
That was my spark. I knew that.
All right. And maybe I want to convert this for a different social platform. So if I hover over here in the video settings, maybe we want to make this for Instagram or TikTok. We'll do a square for now. All right. Now maybe I want to add in, let's say, add a waveform.
That was my spark. I knew that.
Okay, good. Now I want to add in Command K again. Progress bar because attention spans. Am I right? Okay,
was my spark. I knew that I needed to.
All right, and we may even want to add in, let's say, a logo here for our show. So I'm going to grab this PNG, highlight this range. I'm going to drag this right onto the script, drop it, and I'm going to resize it now. So maybe I just want it like a little smaller. Put it here. All right, let's see how this is all coming together here.
That was my spark. I knew that I needed to apply my engineering chops and work to empower creative professionals. And
cool. So now if I'm ready to share this, I can do a number of different things. There's a lot of ways to get your material, get rid of that, get your material out of Descript. I can export this as a video file, I can export a GIF, I can export audio only. We're talking a lot about accessibility, ensuring that our content is accessible. I'm going to, let's say, turn this into just a full-on transcript. I can export that as a docx or an RTF. I might also want to create this as what we call a page share. So maybe I've just finished up my initial rough cut. I'm ready to send this to Jay to review before, let's say, I publish to perhaps Buzzsprout, Captivate, eWebinar, putting it on one of our other publishing platforms. So maybe I want to get this ready for Jay to review. So I might create this page option. And what this is going to do is it's going to generate this share URL. And I already published this in advance. So let's check this out. I'm going to view the page. And here it is. So I can send Jay this link. He can do a quick review.
that was my spark. I knew that I needed to apply my engineering chops. And
it'll follow along the interactive transcript. And so if I send him this link, he doesn't necessarily need Descript access. He just needs this URL. And then if he wants to leave a comment, he can go in and add a comment just like you would in Descript. Let's say I want to tag a colleague here. Should we keep? And then Jay would be able to respond back. So it's very interactive in that sense, being able to provide sort of real-time feedback in the app. Another thing you could do, let's say if you just want to stay audio only, I might publish that just as an audio page. And then
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today.
And the really nice thing about these pages is that they're embeddable. So what you can do is you can iframe that in, let's say, to your WordPress site, and then it's just an embedded player and it'll follow along in the transcript. And so if you wanted to go through and search the transcript, you'll be able to do a keyword search, really easy, super accessible. So just wanted to point out the page is an option for publishing. Now, since you're all pros, I do want to mention that one way to also export is to export out into a timeline. So if you're using things like Pro Tools, Audition, or Premiere, you can export that AAF, bring it into Descript. All of your files come over non-destructively, so it's really easy to export to other systems. So we play well with other softwares. Awesome. I'm trying to think, what have I not talked about that would be relevant for audio workflows here? So if you're like, hey, can you cover a little more about video? Or we haven't talked much about recording video in Descript, which is certainly an option. We have a built-in screen recorder that allows you to record both your desktop or a full camera recording. You can also record audio directly into Descript, and this will transcribe almost in real time. So check this out. I'll do just my MacBook, and we're going to transcribe. Welcome to Harmony's podcast, where I'm going to talk about some of my favorite meals. San Diego has some great food. Okay, I'll spare you. So once I stop, that will start transcribing my audio. And granted, I'm recording in my living room, so there's a little bit of room reverb. It's not like optimal audio setting here. So what I can do is I can go in and apply what we call studio sound. That will get rid of some background noise. This is kind of like Isotope RX Lite in that it will get rid of all of that background noise that's happening. It also does a little bit of speech enhancement as well. So great tool for if you have suboptimal audio recording settings, you can just slap that on. I would say once you apply it, you're going to have an intensity dial that will allow you to bring a little bit of the room tone back in. My sweet spot is usually somewhere between 70 and 80%, but dial it into whatever is going to work best for you. So here it is turned on at 100, or I'll leave it off so we can listen. Welcome to Harmony's podcast, where I'm going to talk about some of... All right, so spare you here. Now let's turn it on. Welcome to Harmony's podcast, where I'm going to talk about some of my favorite... It'll sound a little bit better in headphones, but hopefully that came across. And so now maybe I might just dial this back a little bit. So easy enough to add that effect. We also have a suite of other effects that you can add in here as well. Oh, great. I see a question from Lydia. So it is, when recording an episode with the platform, would my guests need to be on a specific browser for this tool to work best? So Riverside, okay. So on a remote island, got you. So yeah, so you do want, it's ideal if you have a strong internet connection if you're recording direct into Descript. Now, if I were to, let's say, record directly into Descript with a guest speaker, I can add a track here. And this is Oziel here. And would use my computer audio. this will give me a little warning here. So let's say if we're recording through Zoom, you'll just want to make sure that you have this all configured properly. But then I'd be able to record through my microphone, let's say my Elgato microphone, and then I would be recording Ozil through my computer audio. Okay, and then I would record here. But it is optimal if you do have a strong internet connection. Otherwise, you can always, if you're using Riverside or Zoom, you can record audio separately for each speaker. Then you can drag it in earlier, just like I showed you. You can also import from a link. So if you have a Zoom link, you can import via that Zoom link recording. And then if you have something already on your computer, you can just grab that file from your computer here too. I hope that answered your question, Lydia, but if not, let me point you to a help article that speaks to remote recording. This is another good way to point out the help center here. So anytime you're like, what does this thing do? Just enter in a keyword and usually the top results will pop up here. So this is remote recording interviews here. So I'm going to throw this in the chat, but great question. And you can always chat with our amazing support team there. You can use the contact us button here. Great support, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific. Usually you'll have a response within 1 to 2 minutes. And then if it's during office hours or off hours, it'll just turn into an email correspondence. So we have great support team that's here to ensure that you're successful in the app. Right. What am I missing? Any other? I can keep talking. So if I don't see any questions, I can keep talking. I would be remiss if I didn't mention overdub. So we've been primarily focusing on Descript as the audio and video editor that it is, right? So that's, I would say, the main pillar of the system, being able to edit audio and video like a doc, and obviously transcription is going to be a big part of that. The second pillar being overdub, which is our synthetic voice tool. So you can create your own synthetic voice using as little as 10 minutes of training. And then I say the wrong words all the time. So let's say if I needed to change, let's say the title of, maybe I mispronounced, maybe I meant to say AI in Auckland, and I said action, I can highlight that word and overdub it in my voice. So allows you to not have to go back and re-record. You can just go in and overdub a specific word. We also have a lot of built-in stock voices as well. So here's one of the workflows that some of our podcasting studios will use overdub for. Is like customized advertisements. So let's say your sign off is, I'm going to select my voice so you can hear this in action. Today's show was brought to you by Pod Houston. Thank you so much for joining us today. So now this audio is going to generate in my voice. And if I wanted to, I could throw on an image or a logo so that that's displaying while we hear that audio. I'm going to give it just a second to generate, as it usually takes a few moments. Let's get it to come on, Descript. How about that? Give it a second. But yeah, it's great for that purpose of just adding in scratch audio either in your voice or in one of our stock voices. All right, so now we see that it's catching, so it's generating that overdub. Now I've trained my voice for about a half hour, but you're going to start to reach maximum production quality at around 45, 60 minutes. So the more you can train your voice, the better. But let's go ahead and take a listen. Today's show was brought to you by Pod Houston. Thank you so much for joining us. So words I've never spoken before, but I can throw that in. Some folks will use this to kind of use for scripting purposes. So if you want to start scripting out your intros or your entire show, script it out in your voice and you'll get a sense of like what the pacing is going to be like. Will the first, let's say the first 10 minutes, you listen back, you're like, oh, we need to get that down to 5 minutes. Overdub is a great way of testing the waters out that way. Let's see here. So I saw a question in the chat. Will Descript work on imported files that were not recorded on separate tracks for each speaker? Absolutely. Yeah. So you can import just a single file, and you'll have the opportunity to delineate who's speaking. So you'd add those speaker labels, and then and actually I can go ahead and show you if you'd like. But otherwise, yeah, you would just drag in that single file, choose the speaker labels, and then you'll be working from a single mono track. Great question. What else? Let me go ahead and throw in the chat the offer that we wanted to extend to you guys today. So this is just a short form that you'll fill out. It's for new users. And so let me throw that in there. You'll just fill out the short form to redeem the offer. And then if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me, of course. This is my email. So if you're ever like, what was Harmony saying about the studio sound? What? Just shoot me an email. I'm happy to provide some additional insight if you'd like. What else? Oziel, what are you thinking? What kind of questions would you have if you were going to start incorporating Descript into your workflow?
Listen, I'm just kind of like, I was mesmerized. My whole mind is boggled by what you can do with Descript. I mean, so much. I mean, those are some nice looking audiograms, Harmony. So I use Buzzsprout, and the audiogram looks amazing. I love how you can just do some really good, simple audio editing. Obviously, you can use it for video. I mean, it's truly like an all-in-one editing service, and you can do so much more with that versus all the other tools that I've been using. So it's all about, like, for our podcasters, how can we consolidate to where we could just use one tool to do it all? And I'm just like, it's just amazing the things that you guys are providing for us content creators. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I'll back that up, because as podcasters, we're constantly Frankensteining everything.
Yeah.
We're pulling this thing
That's
from
right.
here and this thing from there. And I am still using some of those Frankenstein pieces, but the more and more that I dive into and learn Descript, the more that I'm starting to let go of those Frankenstein pieces, because it really is becoming more and more what I use now. I'm not editing my podcasts in Descript yet. I'm still using Hindenburg, but for the SRT files, for the audiograms, for quote graphics, for all the stuff that I need to kind of do the production work, it really is making a big difference in how I do that. And I did not know about the pages, Harmony, because what I'm doing now is I'm exporting or sharing and then exporting and then uploading it to Dropbox Paper and then sending a document to the clients to look at. I had no idea I could have saved myself lots of time by just creating a page and allowing them to edit and look at it. So this was a huge, huge thing for me. Thank you.
Oh,
Oziel
outstanding. That
and
makes my
Pod
day.
and Harmony.
Thank you,
Outstanding.
Jennifer.
Yeah, the share pages are great, whether you're working internally or with external clients. It hopefully will give you some efficiency gains, to your point, Jennifer, as opposed to like having to upload, then download, then use a Google Doc for comments. Hopefully it will kind of streamline the process for your workflow. So glad to hear that.
It's good stuff. Well, I see one question, Harmony, here. I'm not sure if you got to it. How does this help with video and audio podcasts, by Jessica?
I am so glad you asked. So as I mentioned, this will work the same way for video. So let's say I've got this interview here between Marilyn, our amazing partnerships manager, and she's interviewing one of our affiliates here. So this just took place on Zoom, brought in the Zoom recordings the same way that I would with audio. So let's take a quick listen here.
We are recording. My name is Marilyn Moser. I am the influencer.
Okay, so we probably don't need like we are recording. We just want it to start with where Marilyn says, my name is Marilyn. So same thing, make that cut.
My name is Marilyn Moser. I am the influencer marketing manager.
So removes the underlying audio and video. So even though this was a video interview, what I can now do is if I go to export, I can create an audio only version of this, or if I want to retain the video, maybe I want to go in and find this spot where Petra was talking about her background here.
So honestly, the inspiration really came because of the pandemic. As of like,
So maybe I just want to like grab this selection here, clip that. Okay, same thing. Maybe I want to add in my captions. And it's focusing just primarily on Petra. So what I can do is I can zoom this so that we're just this a little bit bigger. Okay, that's fine for rock and roll for now. So I can add in those captions. I might also want to add in that progress bar. So start moving those elements around.
honestly, the inspiration really came because of the pandemic.
Once I'm ready, I can export that just as a standalone video file or as a share page. And then you've got like a little video teaser for this interview. So same way of editing the audio, do it the same with video. And then that way you're able to deliver your content, in multiple channels. Everyone consumes information and retains it in different ways. So you think of your visual folks, you think of your auditory folks. So that way you're feeding your content in multiple formats.
Love it. We'll finish off with a few comments here from Reggie. Great presentation. Thanks, Harmony. Don Terrell, also great tool for live streamers as well. Don is a live streamer, so he uses for live streaming. And Ben, I've been using primarily for content editing, but then moving into Audacity for the sound editing. I think I know enough now to do audio editing here. Thank you. And Jessica says, thank you. And of course, Maxwell chimes in. You can send this video teasers to your show guest and make it easier for them to promote their interviews. Absolutely, Maxwell. Well done. Harmony, we rocked that. You rocked that right now. That was an amazing presentation.
I'm so sorry about Descript misbehaving about halfway through,
No,
but
it's all good.
we had some teachable moments there.
It's real moments. It
Refresh
happens. It
or
happens to
quit.
all of us,
Yeah.
especially as podcasters. We know all about it, live streamers too. So listen,
Yes.
guys, thank you, Harmony, so much for this great presentation. I know I learned a lot as well. Guys, let's give some love, some hearts in the chat room. Show some love to Harmony and the whole Descript family. There you go. Oh, who did that? Is that Jesse? Is that
Wow.
Pedro? Pedro, I was waiting for you. Yes. Let's go. Come on, bring it up. Bring it up. Come on, y'all. Give it up. Descript, y'all.
Thank you so much for the love.
There we go. There you go. Thank you. See, that's Pedro. You're hired, Pedro. You're an audio producer for Pod Houston. So thank you, Harmony, so much. On behalf of Pod Houston and Podcast Influence Academy, we really do appreciate and admire and respect everything that you're doing for us content creators, for us podcasters. And we look forward to building on our relationship. And hopefully we get to see you soon. Are you going to be at Podcast Movement?
We are. We're going to be at Podcast Movement. I think it's in Dallas this year, right?
In Dallas in August.
Dallas?
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're going to have a booth I think we're sponsoring a track as well. So please come find us. We're going to be doing live demos. And yeah, if you have any questions, come find our team. I'm so excited about making Descript accessible to this team. I want you to be able to focus on the creation and storytelling process and less on the technology. So I hope this helps give you a way to be more efficient and have more fun with the editing process.
Beautiful. Thank you, Harmony.
Thanks,
We'll stay
guys.
connected. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
And I
Have a
think that's,
wonderful evening.
yeah, absolutely. Have a great night, Harmony. We'll see
You
you soon.
too. Bye.
Cheers. All right. That was awesome. Guys, all right. So we're going to go ahead and finish it. We have a packed house. So I'll go ahead and end it off. Pedro, thanks for coming through, bro, with the clutch. That was nice. We needed that for Harmony because that was an amazing presentation. And guys, I just want to go ahead and just say a couple things because thank you so much. I know we had some people from Chicago, MediaCasters, right? I think Jessica's from there, Brian Little, Insiders, people from all over that tuned in. And of course, we saw some familiar faces that we haven't seen in a while. So thank you guys so much for supporting this event. And of course, Descript. I mean, I've known about them, but I didn't really know exactly what they were all about. So this was kind of like a true like masterclass for me as well. And I was really impressed about what they're doing over there for us podcasters. So I'm going to put a couple things in the chat room. So obviously, a lot of you are part of the Pod Houston community. So please join Pod Houston. And of course, we have an amazing mastermind called Podcast Influence Academy. I'll drop that in the chat room if you guys are interested in checking it out. And just a few things that we got going on coming up. So we'll do an exclusive for you guys. June 7th, mark your calendar, especially if you're in Houston, Texas. If you're not, then we'll find a way to stay connected and keep you posted. June 7th, Tuesday, Pod Houston is collaborating with Podcast Movement. We are bringing Dan and Jared down here. They are hanging out with Pod Houston. We have a location in mind. So if you guys don't know Podcast Movement, they are the biggest podcasting conference in the world. Okay, they just recently had Podcast Evolutions. I know, Pedro, you've been there before, and a few others. I went to Podcast Movement about 6 or 7 years ago, back in Fort Worth when they first started. But now they're bringing it back to Texas. It'll be in our backyard, and it's going to be in Dallas, I believe, August. I'm not sure if somebody could put in the chat room the date, but it's going to be in August. We're going to be there, and Dan reached out to me, who is the president of Podcast Movement, said, Ozil, we know you guys are rocking it with Pod Houston. Can we come down and do a meetup? So it's going to be June 7th, Tuesday. It's going to be a networking meetup. And then we're going to be back at live events in July. So we have a co-working space that is lined up in July as well. So we're back, baby. We're back with the live events. I know the virtual thing. I feel like everybody's zoomed out, but you guys came and showed up. And of course, we really do appreciate you showing up for this amazing masterclass. So June 7th. And of course, Pod Houston for all the latest news and stay connected with these amazing podcasters that you're seeing here tonight. So thank you guys so much. We'll definitely stay in touch. Oh, there you go, Reggie. Thank you. August 23rd and 26th. And then, so yeah, please join the group. It was great to see you guys. And we'll be back with more masterclass. If there's anything you want to learn or any other brands, I've been building some good relationships with a lot of the heavy hitters in the podcasting world. So if there's any like specific master classes or anything that you would like to learn specifically, shoot me a DM, let me know, and I promise you I will get them here with Pod Houston and Podcast Influence Academy. All right, promise you, my promise. All right, guys, thank you so much. Have a great night. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll stay in touch. Cheers. Peace.